Just another Magic Monday. Didney!
Hey guys! We're coming at you with a DIY video this week. It's so fun! Something that I've wanted for at least 3 years now, because the first time I saw it was at Dayton Disneyana. But if you're familiar with the Dayton Disneyana vlogs, especially this year, you might recognize this project because I thought I was bidding on it in an auction, but I wasn't. So it was a really embarrassing moment for me. But yeah, we are going to make a Mickey Mouse lamppost today. Gary of Carol and Gary, our friends from the Canadian Disney Addicts, is going to help us put it together, and we're each gonna take one home. Yay! But the whole point of it is that you guys at home, if you want to try and make it yourself, he's gonna give you like the step-by-step. And there's also a whole blog post that he put up a number of years ago, so we're gonna link that below for your own reference. Yes. So, one thing before we actually get into this though, being at Carol and Gary's house is amazing. Oh my God.
This is just Orangeburg. Just Orangeburg. And like, she's just got a mishmash of everything.
But it's so
amazing.
organized. So she's got a Dumbo shelf, an Alice shelf, a Pinocchio shelf, Frozen shelf.
I have one shelf.
It has everything on it.
All the Mickeys. And wait. Come.
That made no sense.
The Haunted Mansion. Look how beautiful it is. And then the Nightmare. I love it. I want it. Just take it.
Let's make some lamps.
I'm so excited.
To build a lamp, the four really hard to find items here in Canada, you can't find them, are the big 12-inch globe, acrylic. Home Depot here in Canada sells them in glass, but they do not sell plastic ones.
Risky.
And you need a 12-inch globe with no flange. In other words, it's flat on the bottom. You need two 6-inch globes with a flange. So this is the piece on a normal lamp fixture. There will be screws that go in to clamp onto this. What we're going to do is cut a big 3 1/4 inch hole here, put that through, so this flange is actually inside the larger globe, and we glue it on. Then our lights and everything clamp onto that flange. The other part is what's called a globe fitter, and this is the part that goes underneath, holds the bulb, holds this all together. Light goes in here, wires go to your power source, and these come in white or black, again at Home Depot in the US. These cost about $18, and I think they're about $30 at Home Depot online. Cannot get them again.
Can you get them shipped to Canada?
I'm not sure that Home Depot does ship to Canada. In the US, if you have someone you could send it to, I think over $50 or $70 or something, Home Depot shipping is free. The small globes are about $8 each, so it's not terribly expensive. And this guy runs, I think, $10 for the black one, $11 for the white one. And I don't know why they're different price, but for whatever reason they are. What we'll do is start by putting this together, and then go on to adapt this so it's going to fit on my pole. This is made to go directly onto a 3-inch metal outdoor lamp post. So if you have a post out in your front yard now with a light fixture on it, this just sits on top, tighten 3 screws, it clamps into place. Put your wires up, clamp this on, then your Mickey head will go right on that. I kind of look at it to see where the middle is. Wherever I think the middle is, there's a masking tape. Doesn't have to be absolutely precise, but does that look like half and half?
I think so.
Does that look like half and half?
Yeah.
Okay, close enough. Now, there's a little dimple usually in the top that's part of the molding process. What we need to do is find the very top center point. And you would think it would be where that dimple is, but it isn't always that way. So the way to find the absolute middle is with a level. So you can see the bead on the level. When it sits up there and it's balanced, and the center point is right there. The reason we need the center point is we're going to measure down 4 inches in each direction and drill a small hole. Get down here 4 inches, and mark it over here 4 inches. And that's the center point for where our ears are going to go. Okay, so we're going to use a small drill bit to just put in a lead hole. It doesn't matter the size, it isn't important, because this is just to hold the drill steady when we put the bigger one in. So we put it somewhere near that spot we just measured. And drill a small hole in, turn it around, do the same thing on the other side.
Now, is the tape pretty crucial in like keeping the acrylic safe, or?
No, it just helps me mark it.
Okay.
And otherwise, the pencil won't really work on the acrylic. Now we get the heavier artillery. Hole saw. This is from Home Depot. You can get it at any building supply place. In Canada, Canadian Tire has them. This one is from Home Depot. It's 2 pieces actually. One, the piece that's black, everything here you see that's black is called a mandrel. And it is just the piece that fits into the drill and holds the hole saw. All the orange is the hole saw, and it's 3¼ inch. Now, when you drill the hole in the acrylic, you will see as I drill that it kind of cuts and it kind of melts. You want to keep your drill going at all times. If you stop the drill, the plastic that you've melted will harden up, fuse it all together, and you're going to crack or break the acrylic. So you want to make sure that once you start, you carry right on through. Keep the hole saw kind of square and flush to the acrylic. Steady, even pressure, but don't press too hard. At the lead hole, and I'll just start by cutting the bigger hole, then I'll stop. Okay, so now I'm through with that, and about to start with the saw cutting the main part of the ear. Try and get all that excess off as much as you can while it's still warm, because it works a little better while it's warm. A little file, just kind of clean up our edges. And there's one hole ready. Now you'll see, you can look closely here at the bottom. You see how thick the acrylic is there? Quite thick on the bottom, and much thinner up here. So this is kind of why you have to be gentle. This is much more susceptible to cracking. One thing I do with these small globes before I put them together is we're going to use this rim here to hold the lights when the ears and the things slide on. Sometimes these have a bit of a sharp edge, or they have the odd little bump in them from the molding process. Just take a little bit of sandpaper and just lightly sand around that edge, just to take off the edges and the bumps. And that'll make it much easier when you're changing light bulbs inside. So it's time then to take one of the small globes and glue it in to be Mickey's ear. And to do that, we're going to glue it, hold it down with a bungee while it dries, and I use a flexible plastic adhesive rather than a styrene glue or whatever. The reason I use the flexible one is because you can, with a little bit of effort, take the globe out. If you take a sharp knife, an X-Acto knife, a hobby knife, or even a knife like this, and once it's glued, just cut around here, and you end up scrape, 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 and work away to get the exterior glue off. And then you can kind of gently rock this and work away, and it will pop out. So if the thing blows over, and they do in high winds, there's a lot of wind resistance here, this part is apt to crack, but these won't. So you can take them out and put them in a new one of these, or vice versa, depending on how it goes. So that's why I use this particular glue. And before I start with the glue, let me get a couple of pieces of tape ready. Just have them handy. Let me get my bungee ready. It just hooks under there. Hooks under there. That's ready. Now we'll get the glue going. So what I do is just put a little dab there, and there, and there, and work my way around so it's not a whole lot, so it doesn't run. Spread kind of evenly around the edges. Pop that right in there, and give it a bit of a twist, just enough to spread that glue a bit. Pull the bungee up, hold it square, so you can see that all of the sides are even. Put a little tape on there just to hold that bungee in place for about an hour while it dries. Let that dry, and then in an hour or so, do the other one.
And like a magical cooking show, it'll look like that when it's done.
Globe fitter, as I said, is designed to go onto a 3-inch metal post. What I use for a post in the portable lamps is a 2-inch ABS plastic household drain pipe. It's what the plumbers use in your house to make those black drain pipes. If you're in the US, some areas they use a PVC pipe instead of ABS, and it's just fine as well, whichever you can get in your area. Just grab a 2-inch pipe. This is a coupler for 2-inch ABS pipes. This is what the plumbers use to connect to those pipes as they run through your house. What I do is take this coupler, put it down there, and then just screw it into position. And that's what holds, this just slides onto the top of the ABS post that I'm going to build. You remove these 3 screws. These are what you tighten to clamp it onto the metal post. I'm going to take them out, replace them with 1-inch wood screws. Those are all out. Now I can put this back in. Hold it steady. I have a real high-tech device, again from Home Depot. It's a paint stir stick. Just cut a little bit off the end and use the little bits of it, break it in half. Use those little bits to go in here and act as spacers for me. Just to hold that in position. So I flip it over. Now I pop one of these in. Takes it a minute to get started before it bites into the plastic. These don't have to be tight, they just need to be snug. Just enough to hold that in place. There we go. So that's it. It's in place, it's good and firm. The wooden bits can come out. It's all set. So one of the things I recommend to people is if a hurricane is coming through, take the head off, bring it inside. Because they will blow over, they will break. So what I do is put that plug on the end of here. You can just lift this off. It just slides onto the top of the post. Friction grip only. There's nothing that holds it there except gravity and friction. Pull it off, unplug it, take Mickey's head inside. The post will be fine out in the weather. This little adapter screws in, and this holds your light bulb. This is a 25 watt equivalent LED bulb, so it'll last for a long time, and I find that the 25 watts is just about the right intensity to match up with the lights I put in the ears, which are 7 watts, and it kind of balances an even kind of light coming out of the top and the bottom. At least it works for me. You may want something different. So they just plug in here, and when you plug it in, voila. So the ears light up with that, this lights up the head. This globe is glued inside the other one. You're kind of working blind to hook up these lights, but essentially you take this little metal clip, hook it onto the bottom, and then just slide it around onto the top, just like that. Okay, so it just slides back and forth, and that's, you hear that grit, that's why it's a good idea to sand them, because it's catching a little bit on there. But that's all there is to it. The two of those hooked together, and I'll show you how I make these. So I start with basically a string of Christmas lights, outdoor Christmas lights, and this is the C9 base. There are two different, there are the bigger bulbs and the small ones. C9 is the big one, C7 is the smaller one. C9 works for me, and over the years I've been lucky enough to find lots of them have this little piece on the bottom which lets me cut off this piece, the hook, and just leave that little piece here with a hole in it on the bottom, and that allows me to rivet them together with a little pop riveter. And if you don't have the pop riveter, hot glue gun, hot glue it on, then put some hot glue over top of that as well. This is going to be the little clamp that holds the bulb up into that ear. That piece I make out of steel that comes in a coil like that. You can buy that at any home supply store or building supply store. It's just galvanized steel strap. So I cut it in a size that just overlaps the edge of that flange by about 1/4 of an inch on each side. And you can see how it pretty much lines up with those small holes. The outside of the rim is on the outer piece of those little holes that are there. So what I'm going to do is bend the ends down so that they wrap around that flange and form a bit of a clamp. This is still a bit arched from being rolled up like that, so I want to flatten it out. Now we're flat. So put it in the vise, just to the bottom of that hole. Bend it over, hammer it a bit, and come to the other side and do the same thing. Just to the bottom of that hole. see how we did. One thing I always do is I take the ends and I want to bend this so that it slides easy around there so the outer edges here don't catch. So I take it and I'm going to bend so this piece comes up like that. So if you see the motion I'm making, I want to make this into a kind of a circle like that. And you can see the arch that's in it. That should run just a little bit smoother around here now. Okay. So you attach that onto here. And that's going to hold your bulb up inside Mickey's ear. Now, the one thing I do to adapt them is the centers here are about 8 inches apart. And that's too long. If we put that inside 8 inches apart, it's going to droop an awful lot. So I just take this, fold it over itself, and just enough, I'll measure it to make sure that these are roughly 8 inches. 7 3/4 to 8 1/4 is fine. And then I put tape around there, as you can see I did right there. The end of this, I add just a short piece of wire, because when the bulbs are hooked up inside, you want enough wire that this will extend out the bottom just by a couple of inches, so you can plug it in and work with the plug. And unfortunately, the way the lights are made, it's too short when you cut it off like that. Okay, so you need to just extend that a little bit and then put a plug on the end of that will fit in here. So the finished assembly looks like the one we saw before, and part of the fun in dealing with the lights is when the seasons change, you can change out the bulbs. So Halloween, everything can go orange. Christmas time, everything can be red and green. So there are plenty of ways to have fun with your light and decorate it, including Mickey can become Jack Skellington. And that is just a Halloween mask or decoration. This one we picked up in Walgreens in the United States. This one is from Spirit Halloween. Same thing, Mickey becomes a jack-o'-lantern. And again, this was made, it's intended to go over the lamp on the front of your house. You can buy them at Spirit Halloween, but it's a perfect size to go on Mickey. If your Mickey's going to be outside in the weather, it naturally will collect dust and grime. It's just like everything does that is outside. Little warm water and soap will help clean it off, but you will get gray streaks and stuff that is more difficult to come off. Mr. Clean Magic Eraser can be your best friend, because it will clean this thing off like nobody's business. So Mr. Clean Magic Eraser is something you should have and use to clean this.
God sponsored.
Okay, we can talk about the post I use. And I said before, it's just a 5-foot length of 2-inch diameter ABS pipe, or PVC pipe works just as well. Now I like to have a crossbar in them, so I drill a 3/4 inch hole roughly a foot down from the top, and my crossbar is going to go through that to hold a flag, to hold a little flower pot, to hold something decorative. Down on the bottom, whatever I'm going to use for a base to hold it, and usually it's going to be an outdoor patio umbrella base, I figure out where the post is going to come. The post from that umbrella base will go right inside here, and then this screws on. I've got a couple of screw holes here. They're going to go in and attach this firmly to that base, and then just above where that base ends, I put a 1/2 inch hole, and that's where the electric cord is going to go in. Feed the cord through here and up and out the top, where it's going to hook onto Mickey. When I buy them, they're rough finish. A lot of times they come in a bundle that will be taped together when it gets to the Home Depot or the building supply store. When you pick it up, it'll be dusty and grimy and probably have gummy tape stuff stuck to it. Goo Gone will take all of that grimy stuff off, clean it up so that it's not dusty anymore.
Not sponsored.
Not sponsored. Put a little piece of masking tape around the top, just about a ½ an inch or so, and that covers the area where Mickey is going to slide off and on. Want to keep that clean and intact. Then I take a very fine grit, about a 400 grit, very, very fine sandpaper. Sand it all down, make it nice and smooth. It doesn't have to be hard sanding, just you're going to take the gloss off that plastic finish and then spray paint it black. So you can see here, there's the original, about a ½ inch, and then the fresh paint. The last thing I do, I'm going to use a 3/4 inch wooden dowel to make my crossbar here. The 3/4 inch hole you drill is going to make a very snug fit for that dowel, particularly when you paint the dowel. Grinding stone, which fits in the end of my electric drill, it's 3/4 inch diameter. Right in there, and just ream that ever so little, just to loosen it up a tiny bit so that crossbar goes in nice and easy.
Alternatively, could you also use sandpaper if they don't have that little bit?
Yeah, do that. So the crossbar I make is also pretty high tech. It's a piece of wooden dowel. I buy it in 6-foot lengths, and I make them about 24 inches long. That's what works for me, and so I can get 3 of those out of a 6-foot piece of dowel. Cut them off, and the ends that you see on here are drawer pulls. They're just wooden bits that go on your kitchen drawers, kitchen doors. So they come in a packet like that. And as you see, there's no hole here. There's a hole there. They're made to put the screw in from the back and screw these on. What I do is put it upside down, take a drill, and just drill down all the way through. And then my screw can go in there and hold it all together. Unscrew that. This slides through there. And there's your crossbar. The base is a very, very important part of your lamp. Because they do put up a lot of wind resistance. So you want something that's heavy and will hold it stable in winds. These are my favorite. I buy them in the US at Christmas tree shops where they're $24.99, I think. Here in Canada you can find them as well at Walmart, where they're about $58, I think. But they're a man-made material. I think there's a lot of concrete in them and probably some plastics and stuff. They weigh 30 pounds. They're thick, heavy, and durable. They stand up very well and give good support. I use what's called a T-nut, which looks like this. That's a 2-inch bolt, and this piece on the end is called a T-nut. I put that on so that the bolt stays there. You don't have to take the bolt out, put it back in, it just stays there all the time, and then the post just screws onto it. You just twist the post on and it's there, it's secure. So T-nuts are at any building supply store. They come in a bag of 4 or 5 of them for $2. That is a T-nut. Want to lift it up?
Is it cake?
Trust me, it's heavy.
Here, hold on to it. So
Drop it on your toe. Especially him, he's wearing sandals.
safety footwear.
Wire I use for the post itself, because I usually make lamps for campers who carry them around in their trailers or motorhomes, I like to give lots of length in the cord so they have some flexibility about where they put it on their campsite. So these are about 25 feet, and as you see, it's an 18-2 wire, which is the gauge, the thickness of the wire itself. Here for the post, I simply strip the ends of the wire and attach female plug to one end, male plug to the other end. It feeds through the post, and then Mickey plugs into this end. So to do the stripping, simply split the insulation like that. And then I have a little stripping tool. If you don't, just take a knife and gently cut the ends. So you open up something like that. Give those a little twist. These can be pretty tight. Hook it around there. Wire kind of tucks into a little groove inside there, like that. Okay.
Does it matter which wire goes on which?
No. Not for a lamp. For televisions and things it does, but not for a lamp. So I said earlier we just feed this through. There's that 1/2-inch hole. Pop it in. Best to hold it upside down, and then gravity works with you instead of against you.
That's smart.
Oh, there it is.
And once it comes out the other end, pull some through to give you room to work. And do the same thing on this end with a female plug.
Just to clarify, the female is going on the top of the pole.
Correct. Female goes on the top of the pole. Female goes on the top of the pole where it can engage with Mickey.
Okay.
Mickey, there he is.
Zap.
Okay, so I talked about the post just screwing on. It's just as simple as that. He's done. The crossbar slides through like that. I won't tighten it up, but this end just screws back on. You can hang your flag.
So that's the insides.
So that shows how they clamp onto that flange. Suggestion I always make to people is when you're changing the bulbs, you're kind of doing it blind in here. And remember I said I use that flexible adhesive on here so they do come apart. It's a good idea when you're pushing to hook that clamp onto the flange, hold it here so you're pushing one hand against your other hand rather than pushing against the glued joint. And once you try this and try to fit it on, you'll understand what I'm saying, but hold it here so that you're not pushing the joint apart. Okay. Then this little plug plugs into the side. This slides in, and everything is, all the wires are tucked away inside out of sight. But you can see that these little bits, that's what holds it together. They're plastic. So when you tighten it down, you don't tighten it real hard. Those will break. Now the good news is it's $10 for the whole thing at Home Depot, but best not to break them. And it doesn't need to be tight. You want to be able to twist this a little bit when it's put together. It just needs to be tight enough that Mickey's not going to come off. Okay, so let's plug it in. Okay. Okay, the way it goes together is one side goes inside and the other just barely makes it. Then you center it. Get your handy dandy screwdriver and just tighten these up a bit. These are a little stiff because they're brand new. They do loosen up. Like I said, that's tight enough, and you can see that it's got some room to play, and I'll show you why we did that. We did that because the wire inside, often you're going to see a shadow. The way to deal with that is to turn the bottom and pull that wire inside. Until that shadow disappears. Katie, if you can come and hold this.
Sure.
Just pull some of this wire through there. Oh, I'm sorry. One thing I always recommend to people, when you hook this up, tie it in a knot. I was taking my lamp at Fort Wilderness down to come home one time, and I was just about at this point when a fella came along and said, "Where do you buy the lamps?" So I just laid this down, went to talk to him, the joint pulled apart, down it went, smashed the lamp. Tie it in a knot. Okay, there you go. There's your Mickey lamp.
Ta-da! So it just pops right on there.
That's so cute.
Yeah, and when the hurricane comes, pops right off, unplug it, take it inside. So this is the typical patio umbrella base, and the diameter of that post is just right. If you take out the nut, the knob, cut off the nut that's welded onto that post, then that black ABS pipe will slide right over top. You drill a couple holes in it, screw it to the metal, and your post is then stabilized to that base.
Hello.
Right over here is the identical base, just painted black with a Mickey lamp on it. And you can see that I have put a metal strap on it to tie it down against the wind. That's been sitting on my back deck for about 9 years. And the dogs like it.
So now that we've made the lamp and seen the collection here, we're gonna sign off because Carol wants to show us her pin collection. There's more. Just keeps going. So if you're getting into Disney collecting, good luck.
Yeah.
But we hope you guys enjoyed this video and that you have a great week. Bye.
All right, so we're gonna open the pin cover.
Oh. Oh my god, I love it. The wallpaper. Oh, that's amazing.
This one here I know is a very popular one.
Wow. Oh, that's adorable. Those are all your pin trading event lanyards.
Over here. Wow. They go way back. Those are all the movie club pins and D23 pins from over the years. This box is all it's a Disney movie.
I remember you got Aladdin at Dayton when I was there.
Yeah.
And I was immensely jealous.
Yeah. These are called pins. So